Alrighty. Let me just adjust the volume. Okay. Oh, let me take a piss actually. The no editing extravaganza right here. Alright. So Holzel et al. Let's just get to it. I don't think, yeah, we don't really need to know this. No, let's just understand the idea of mindfulness first, I guess. Holzel et al. What's the name of the study again? Mindfulness and brain scans. Okay. So let's just look at it in brief. Okay. Let's just read it. So Holzel et al. Do one more zoom, maybe. Maybe not. Yeah, not really, actually. We can do a little bit more zoom now. There you go, 45 works. Okay. So, Holzel et al. In brief. So they built on previous research by conducting an experiment with a longitudinal design where they tracked changes in gray matter throughout the brain before and after MBSR training. They also measured the amount of time spent on mindfulness exercises and changes in the 5 facets of mindfulness to see whether there was a correlation. The team aimed to objectively measure neurological changes associated with changes in mindfulness. So the idea is take an MRI, then have a control group do nothing, have an experimental group do the MBSR training, longitudinal design, long time, then at the end, take another MRI, see what changed in terms of gray matter in the brain, in specific parts of the brain. And there you go. So, let's get to it. Let's get to it, huh? Let's get to it. Oh, these things are so long, man. I might try to do it a little bit chiller this time, a little bit less. A little bit less powerful, but we'll see. Okay. Aim 1. Identify To identify if regular participation in mindfulness-based stress reduction (MBSR) leads to measurable neurological changes, might be associated with trait changes related to mindfulness practice. Regular, or I'll just say, yeah, okay, regular MBSR leads to measurable neurological changes. To identify brain structures changed by 8-week MBSR program. Meth. So, the researchers were looking for a causal relationship between MBSR and gray matter concentration in various brain structures. Some measurements were taken in a controlled setting, but others part of the study were natural errors. Part naturalistic, part lab setting. Might go get some water in a second once I finish this part. Okay, part lab setting. Although the main method is experiment, one part of the study was a correlation, as the researchers also wanted to know whether there's a non-causal relationship between time spent on mindfulness exercises and increases in gray matter concentration. So, design and variables. There are two independent variables. IV1. Whether participants received MBSR or not. Yeah. Old versus mental. No MBSR. IV2. Whether data was collected at the beginning or the end of the 8-week study period. Data collection time. For 8-week program versus after. DV1 was a gray matter concentration. DV2 5 facets of mindfulness. Right, measured, yeah, MRI. And third dependent variable was time spent on mindfulness exercises between the weekly sessions, which was recorded in a daily diary. Exercises. Recorded diary. Daily. Okay, daily diary. This was a longitudinal design. Longitudinal design. Data was collected over an 8-week period. Data collected over 8 weeks. Study uses independent measures. Independent Measures experimental so different people in the control and experimental groups, and then the sample of 33 adults 25 to 55 years old. Self-reported medical information such as they were all physically and psychologically healthy. Physically and psychologically healthy, no medications. All agreed. Good answer. Program. He was free. All had little experience with ASR. Okay. Procedure. I'm gonna go get a glass of water. Time for some more unlimited awesomeness. Nice. Okay. Okay. So, I have to grab the banana. Oh, it's a sad banana. The banana is so sad. Okay. So, procedure. Let's just read through it. So, before the MBSR sessions, MRI scans of the brain were conducted 2 weeks before the experimental group's first MBSR session. Three-dimensional digital models were created by taking pictures of one Meaning a banana with my left hand, okay? I'm just gonna trace over it. I don't know, it's a model, you know. Okay. I'm almost done with my banana. Pretty simple. So, I'm just gonna type with one hand. Procedure. So, before the MBSR program, I scans FFMQ taken during MBSR program. Eight weekly sessions, 45 minutes each. Wait, never mind. Sorry, it doesn't say that they're 47 minutes each, but checking the experimental group are giving a given 45 min recording to use for home. Okay, and then we have after MBSR program. MRI scan. MRI scan. FFMQ taken. Comparison. And now we're going to the results. Yeah, this is going fast-ish. We'll see. Hopefully we can get a good amount of this done. Pretty quick. Okay, results. Conclusion is long as fuck, but it's okay, we'll just deal with it. Amount of PSR practice. Average 22.6 hours. High standard deviation. What's right? Standard deviation of 6.3. Some keys were practiced. Others. Around 27 minutes per day. No core between exercises. improvements in mindfulness. So, FFMQ showed that the experimental group demonstrated significant improvements in acting with awareness, observing, and non-judging after MBSR training compared with the control group, but they did not show improvements in describing and non-reactivity. Any areas excluding describing and what is it again? Non-reacting, non-reactivity, and non-reactivity. Then we have gray matter changes. Gray matter changes. MBSR group. MBSR group increased gray matter Okay. Time spent on guitar. Increased. So regularity is more important than time spent is what they gather from that. No structure destroy decrease. Posterior cingulate cortex. Changes. Okay. Conclusions. Get this up to the middle here. Okay. Conclusions. So, Holzel et al. Concluded that structural changes, for example, increased gray matter concentration in key brain regions, including the can occur as a result of participation in regular swimming, even just at rate wakes, staying up the brain regions that have involved these areas are central to improvements in well-being, observing people who make mindfulness part of their daily lives. So they did not confirm previous findings relating to the insula, and the researchers conclude the changes in reasoning were found more than 8 weeks of practice. Okay. Structural changes. Right there. And result from Let me start practice. Affected structures in the brain. In learning, memory, motion, etc. I'm not gonna write all that shit, bro. Can't be asked. Okay. Now we go on to eval. Okay. Just. Oh god. Jesus Christ. There's so much. So much evaluation. Look at this. Oh my god. It's so cancer, bro. Holy shit. Okay. Ethics. We're just gonna go real quick for these, okay? Ethics. Boom. Strength. Boom. Many steps taken to protect T's from harm. Made sure no metallic implants for MRI. Made sure no claustrophobia for MRI. Control received MBSR. Okay, nice. Not so bad, right? Not so bad. Okay. Now what's next? Math. Weakness. Lack of standardization. Shows for sessions and how long. So the participants chose what, how long, and where to practice between sessions. Procedure cannot be replicated. It's in gray matter, maybe not reliable. Okay, then we have the strength. Strength. Reliable. Internal consistency in FFMQ. Use of FFMQ for after the program. One after the program. Questionnaire high reliable. Highly reliable questionnaire. I pause for between questions. Then we go on to validity. A strength. Valid. Independent measures. Independent measures. Measured change in gray matter for both these who did/didn't do MBSR. It's obvious though, because there's no way you can do this thing without it being independent measures. Features, any changes to of MBSR. Conclusion that gray matter changes were due to MBSR. Weakness and invalid, which is lacking control of confounding variables. I can control confounding variables. For example, the experimental group had the added benefits of potentially making new friends at their weekly sessions and taking part in general exercise or yoga stretches in addition to the mindfulness meditation, making it hard to identify which factor led to the increase. The control group, which may affect the mindfulness of the study's validity. Counting variables, group also had added uncontrolled benefits, make friends less at the classes, mental exercise via yoga. It's harder to identify which factors affected rate. Weak, valid, self-report data. Long 39 item questionnaire. Boredom may cause answers to be inaccurate. Not thought. Now, this is validity of answers. Of answers. Okay, now we're on to OBJ and sub-J. Strength. Objective. Quantity data. Of MRI measured quantity data to my quantity data to measure gray matter. Objective computer software. Okay, we're almost done. Holy shit, look at that. We're almost done, boys. We're making it. Generalizations. Weakness. Beyond sample. Sample of 33 adults. Well, average, well educated. Structural plasticity. Plasticity meaning the ability for it to be like, changed, or for it to morph and adapt or whatever. Structural plasticity affected by age and education. results beyond sample to younger slash less educated. Cool. Now we have a strength, our final evaluation one. Gen to everyday life. Generalizing everyday life is a strength. Researchers encourage experimental. Yeah, okay. He's encouraged to use MBSR exercises in everyday life. Practiced in shower, while walking, to work, etc. Increases go val of findings. Similar gray matter changes apply to others in real life applications. Okay. Debates. Issues / debates. Nature versus nurture. Supports nature. Kids are all the workings of the brain, development of new synapses, controlled by your genes. However, the study also supports the role of nurture. The findings demonstrate that experiences such as attending a regular mindfulness class can influence our biology, blah blah blah. Regular mindfulness practice appears to trigger blah 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 blah. It means that with regular mindfulness practice, even people who have genetic predispositions can out neurological factors. But it also supports nurture, environment, class. Great. Get up. Okay, and then up to everyday life. Suggests integration of regular MBSR practice. Yeah. Active, blah, blah, blah. Suggests that we do not need to spend a large amount of time on MBSR exercises, but regular. Oh my god, I can't type. Holy shit. Focus. Oh my god. Focus on regular daily practice, not long time spent, less important. Include MBSR in education or workplaces. And reduce stress. Boom, done. Okay, let's start from the top. So Holzel et al. Mindfulness and brain scans. Mindfulness and brain scans. Boom. Aims. Aim number 1, to identify if regular MBSR practice leads to measurable neurological changes. Number 2, identify brain structures changed by the 8-week MBSR program. Methodology. Part naturalistic, part lab setting. Naturalistic as in when they're at home doing their MBSR practice on their own, and part lab setting when they're taking the MRI, doing the other stuff. Also, the classes that they take are technically naturalistic because they weren't like necessarily part of the research. It was just an actual MBSR class. But the lab setting part is taking the self-report and the taking the FFMQ self-report and also getting the MRIs. Okay. IV1, control versus experimental, the MBSR versus no MBSR, and the IV2 was when the data was collected, before the 8-week program versus after. The DV, the dependent variable number 1 was the gray matter concentration change, which was measured via the MRI. The dependent variable 2 was the 5 facets of mindfulness changing over the 8 weeks, which was measured via the FFMQ self-report. And the third dependent variable was the time that they spent on the MBSR exercises recorded by the people self-report in their own daily diary. So, design was longitudinal. Data was collected over 8 weeks. Independent measures design. The control and experimental groups were consisting of completely different people. Opportunity sample of 33 different adults. Around all 25 to 55 years old. Good education, around like 17 years of education on average. Physically and psychologically healthy, no medications. Agreed that they'd aim to complete the MBSR program. The program fee was free for them, and they all had very little to no experience with MBSR beforehand. So the procedure for the MBSR program, they got MRI scans and FFMQ, and they took the FFMQ self-report. During the MBSR program, they had 8 weekly sessions and were also given 45-minute recordings to use for meditation at home, and they were also encouraged to do their own meditation and MBSR practice in their day-to-day lives. After the MBSR program, they took MRI scans again, they took the FMQ again, and the comparisons were made in between them. They used some sort of advanced computer software to compare the gray matter and stuff as well. Okay, on to results. Halfway there. Maybe, no, less than halfway. Amount of MBSR practice, average 22.6 hours. High standard deviation of 6.3 because some participants practice a lot more than others practice very little. Around 27 minutes per day on average, and no correlation between exercises. The improvements in mindfulness. The FMQ showed improvements in many areas, basically every single area between the two groups except for describing and non-reactivity, in which both groups stayed the same. Gray matter changes. The MBSR group increased gray matter compared to the control group. but before the 8-week program, their gray matter was the same as the control group, so it can be concluded that it was due to the MBSR. Increased time spent on MBSR practice did not have a correlation with increased brain matter. So we know that regularity of the practice was more important than the time spent. There were also no decreases in gray matter anywhere for the MBSR group, but for the control group, there was a decrease in gray matter shown in the posterior cingulate cortex, but no other changes besides that. The conclusion is that structural changes like increased gray matter can be caused by just 8 weeks of regular MBSR practice, and the affected structures in the brain are involved in learning, memory, emotion, etc., and that will improve well-being. Evaluation. Ethics is strong. Many steps were taken to prevent the participants from harm. They made sure that they had no metallic implants for the MRI, made sure that they were not claustrophobic for the MRI, and the control group, which initially didn't get the MBSR, was given free MBSR after the 8-week program, after the 8-week experiment, so that they would get the benefits afterwards, or so they wouldn't be left without the benefits. Then the methodology. One weakness causes it to be more unreliable, which was this lack of standardization. The participants chose what, how long, and where to practice between sessions, and that makes it so that the procedure cannot be replicated, and the differences in gray matter between people may not be reliable. But one strength in the methodology, which makes the study more reliable, is the internal consistency in the FFMQ. The use of the FFMQ before and after the program. The FFMQ is a highly reliable questionnaire with high positive correlation between questions, which makes the results gained from it very reliable. In terms of validity, one strength, which makes the study more valid, is the independent measures and use of control group design. They measured the change in gray matter for both participants who did and didn't do the MBSR, and it ensures that any changes are due to the presence of MBSR, as we can compare the control group, which didn't have MBSR, to the experimental group, which did. And this strengthens the conclusion that gray matter changes were due to MBSR. Weakness, which slightly invalidates the study, is the lacking control of confounding variables. The experimental group also had added uncontrolled benefits, like being able to make friends at classes that the other group wasn't attending, and gentle exercise via yoga. Since these are not factors taken into account in the MBSR program, it makes it hard to identify which factors affected gray matter and if it really was MBSR that affected gray matter in general. Another weakness, which invalidates the study slightly, is the self-report data. It was a long 39-item questionnaire. And this causes boredom, which may cause people's answers to be inaccurate or not thought out, and that reduces the validity of the answers. In terms of objectivity and subjectivity, there's a strength, which increases the objectivity of the study, which was the use of quantitative data from the MRI. The MRI quantitative data to measure gray matter used very objective computer software. It's very reliable, very strong. It's not just going to be wrong. It reduces human error and all that, and makes it very subjective findings. Generalizations. One weakness is that you can't generalize beyond the sample. The opportunity sample of 33 adults who were all average, the average of which were all well educated. Since structural plasticity is affected by age and education, it's hard to generalize the results beyond the sample to younger and less educated people. But the strength in generalizations is the generalization to everyday life. The participants were encouraged to use MBSR exercise in everyday life. They practiced in the shower, while walking to work, etc. This increases the ecological validity of the findings and shows that similar gray matter changes could apply to other people who are applying MBSR in a real life situation. Then finally, issues and debates. Nature versus nurture. It supports nurture in the way that the study is investigating neurological factors and development, but it also supports nurture in the way that the change in environment, which was attending MBSR classes, did end up affecting gray matter development. Application to everyday life is that the study suggests that integration of regular MBSR practice can increase well-being. Oh my god, I'm so fucking... Jesus Christ. Yeah, so the study suggests that integration of regular MBSR practice can increase well-being. Focus on regular daily practice and time spent is less important. And another way we could apply this to real life is that you can include MBSR classes in education or workplaces to increase productivity and reduce stress. Thank you very much. Goodbye.